Is down, but they're looking for the killer blow. That's it, back of the end zone. Dagger! He's looking. Jamil's coming. He's moving. He's got him. He's got him. It was caught, but Jed has called the sack. Incomplete. He called the sack. It's 2 points to the Hammerhead. An unbelievable sack there by Jamil. This is the last game of the day. It's caught and it's in. It's a touchdown.
That's it.
It's a touchdown. The last play of the game. The clock is at zeros. That's it. Your Swansea Hammerheads are advancing to the Division 1 final, having knocked off the 2 seed and having knocked off the 1 seed. Alan Young, you look absolutely stunned.
What do you mean by live? Genuine live?
Yes. We're broadcasting.
Hello, radio!
And now, a new episode of The Way We HNC It.
Hello, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Way We HNC It, and what could be a bumper double podcast week, you lucky devils. This particular episode is a very, very special one where we're not going to talk about the impending games of the week, the playoff standings, or what your team has to do this weekend in order to make your faint playoff hopes become a reality. Instead, we're going to hearken back to last weekend where the tournament of the year took place at the Cheltenham Sevens. I am joined by Mr Flagapalooza himself, Ben Newham. Benjamin, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's nice to be on for the first time.
We have been talking about this back and forward almost weekly ever since, I think, about February. So it's finally, I'm glad to finally make it happen. So yes, how are you? How's your blood pressure come down? Heart rate back to normal?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. We got through it.
We did.
I need to make one of those memes with what's the movie Inception, where Leonardo DiCaprio is waking up and everyone's kind of staring at him. It's kind of that feel the morning after, and yeah, I can't believe we kind of got to the other side. Really, wasn't completely smooth sailing. We can get into that later, but yeah, I'm pleased that we're there and we made it happen. That's the most important thing. It was a lot of hard work.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I guess we'll just go to right back to the genesis. I guess it's dark over the winter. It's rainy. It's snowy. Oh, maybe it's not snowy where you are. It's snowy here, but here. So you're sitting there and you're like, I want to do a flag football tournament. I've had this idea. So do you know someone at the Sevens already, or was it literally just like a cold call? I've had this idea. You do sports. I like sports. I have a sport.
So the idea of the tournament has been there for a number of years.
Right. Okay.
Namely because aside from tracking up to Scotland, there isn't a main festival tournament in the central part of the UK. It was something that my teammates, people I'd spoken to were kind of really wanting to have, and it's something that BAFA had never done. Really, they should have over the course of the last few years. But resources are hard, and having a kind of logistical setup is difficult if you don't have one. So the Sevens guys, Jack, mainly, who is the founder of Cheltenham Sevens, he came up to me a couple of years ago and said, "Oh, I'd really like to get flag here." Happens to be where we train every week with the Cheltenham Neptunes.
Ah, perfect. Okay.
So he approached me, and I said, maybe not yet, possibly in the future. And then he approached me again, August, October-ish, this sort of time of the year last year, saying that he's still keen to have flag football come to Cheltenham Sevens, and would I be able to do it? And I took some time to think about it because it's a big commitment. It's a lot of work. And it was looking at the confidence of myself. Can I do this? I've never been to a big flag tournament. Other than finals day for BAFA, I've never been to one. Not on the same sort of scale. Cheltenham Neptunes have never competed in one. So it was really all new territory to me. But yeah, we decided to kind of take the plunge. And I officially launched it, I think it was like January the 5th or something like that. Yeah. And it kind of took on a whole life of its own and personality, and we just kind of ran with the flow. I say we, me, I kind of ran with the flow.
The royal we, Benjamin,
the royal we,
yes.
The royal we. I mean, there's other people involved that have been a massive help, and I wouldn't have been able to even start to think about doing a tournament without the kind of insight from other people who've kind of helped advise and consult along the way.
So, yeah, that is a big step because that you there's tournaments and there's tournaments, right? So yeah, to step in, obviously like the heads the leg up from what am I trying to say here? The leg up from if you had to do this from scratch to create something like that is like much more. You've got a leg up, right? Because the festival already exists.
Yeah, I've got the infrastructure of Cheltenham Sevens there to kind of
the standard
help with that.
To hit, right? Because there's more pressure on like don't mess up the good thing they have with like a terrible tournament of like 3 teams in a muddy field, right? So when because I've done this, the Quake has always been totally different because it's like rainy October in Scotland and not even in like an easy bit of Scotland to get to. When you hit go on the on the entry or even on the date post, how long did it take you from hitting like we're doing this to feel like okay, this might work?
So the way we did it was we set up on the Cheltenham Sevens website, we started building the buzz and we set up the register interest before the team entry was actually open. We'd had probably 20, 30 emails just off the back of that in the first probably 2-3 weeks. So I was fairly confident that at least the mixed bracket would sell out. And initially we'd only opened a mixed bracket. We didn't have a women's bracket. But I started getting emails from players from teams like Manchester Titans who asked, are we doing a women's bracket from the contact team and things? And we decided that it would be a great opportunity to showcase more women's flag as they're doing some of the best flag in Europe at the moment, I would say, arguably. So, yeah, I was pretty confident that we would at least have the teams, and then it was a case of how are we going to pull it off?
Yeah. So, yeah, like you get the initial surge of interest, and you're like, yes, which that's always cool. So, in terms of incorporating with the Cheltenham Sevens, so for people that are like, I was kind of aware of what was going on, I saw it. Like, explain the weekend and what the Cheltenham Sevens Festival is for anyone who was I don't know on holiday in Greenland last week or whatever.
Okay, so if you've never heard of Cheltenham Sevens is essentially a music sports festival for sports lovers and music lovers and festival lovers, generally festival goers. They've got live music, so we had like loads of fun with they had a ABBA revival tribute band on the Friday night, which everybody absolutely loved, including myself. We had, I think, Artful Dodger on the Saturday night and some other kind of DJs and acts and things. They had like a drum and bass tent this year for the first time. Although I wasn't quite expecting them to be so close to the flag fields on day one. That was a little bit difficult to contend with. But we also had the festival village. So you've got lots of vendors and stalls and street food and camping and bars. And you've basically got a whole festival there. So if you're there to compete and you're there to kind of do it in the serious sense, you can do that. But if you're there just to have a good time and enjoy the festival vibes, they're there for everybody as well. So it really was a kind of win-win. And I don't think Cheltenham Sevens, when they initially asked us to do flag, would realise how kind of serious the flag community is in terms of what they want and how they want to compete and who would turn up and things. So they kind of thought it would be, like you say, a few people throwing around in a muddy field for a few shits and giggles, and then they'd go and get drunk in a tent. But no, it's a serious tournament. And I wanted to kind of make it as big and competitive as I could, which is also why we introduced cash prizes for the first time in this country. So that was also a big thing I wanted to do.
I think there's quite a lot of people out there that have come into contact with the flag community and not realised quite how serious they are about flag. for better or for worse. Like the listeners in our community can decide if that's me throwing shade at them or not. But so 4 pitches. Four pitches.
We had 4 head referees. Getting head referees was the hardest task of everything. Nobody was available. I kind of scrimped to scrape to get forward the crew that we had, and immensely grateful to them. But yeah, 4 pitches across the Saturday on the Friday, in the main part of the festival, and they've got 2 sites which are kind of adjoining fields over. The second site we were at on day 1, which is about a 10-minute walk from the main site. So there were a number of people not really expecting that walk on the second day. I think that kind of it shocked a few people, to say the least, and it put us a little bit behind on the schedule just from the off, which is one of the problems that we encountered. One of the few problems we encountered during the weekend, but we do what we can, and we battle on, and we get through it. But
so obviously, from the Rex's Midnight Runners, obviously, Baywatch was a contingent of folk from up here in Scotland. Some of them are less good, shall we say, at being in the sun than others, and from the contrasting red-white of their pasty skins, looks like Friday was pretty warm.
Yeah, we weren't anticipating like a 30-degree heat wave on Friday. That's for sure. And there was very little cover out for the teams, and because we have 4 pitches and we've got 20 teams in the mixed bracket, we had to really plow through and get through the games as quickly as we could. So we were there from 12 o'clock. I think we ended up kicking off maybe 12:30, 1:45, and we had to make up time. So we were behind from the off because teams were late to turn up. I wanted teams there at 10 a.m. And some teams rocked up at 12. So it was really, it was quite challenging in that respect. But we made up time. Everyone did amazing. But as a result of the heat, one of my referees got a bit of sunstroke. So I was already down one referee Saturday morning. Sorry, I always think Saturday, Sunday. It's Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, you think it's a weekend.
So this day 2, I was already down one referee, which put a strain on us from the off.
Yeah, so 4 groups, top 2 went through. Women's, that is a line. And remember, you're being recorded, so I can screenshot that and share it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and I was under a gazebo, so it was.
I'll maybe share a photo with you of Mr. Cammy Wilson later on. I'm sure he won't mind the drumstick himself. So top 2 qualified for the Saturday. Saturday women's bracket comes in, round robin, 6 teams.
6 teams. Yeah, we that's the only bracket we didn't fill was the women's. We were sat on like 3 teams for ages, and we had 8 spots to fill. And then we had a few more teams join in like a month or 2 before the tournament, just to kind of firm everything up, which was fantastic. We went from sort of 5 teams, and then London Amazons joined quite late. I did have a 7th team wanting to join about 5 days before the tournament, but there was just it's too late at that point. Yeah. I had to kind of say no, and please join next year.
Please come back next year.
Yeah. But we messed up the second day in terms of the way that we had everything, I think, planned out for the day. Okay. Because we had 6 teams, one team would always have to be reffing, but that also meant we were only using 2 of the 4 pitches.
Yeah.
But because we were also down referees, had we had the referees, I probably would have started the men's quarterfinals on the remaining 2 pitches. But yeah, we were just so short of referees on the day. It just made everything really, really difficult. But women's bracket, yeah, on day 2, again, it started really late. We were about 2 hours behind. We wanted to start and kick off at about 8:45. I think it was maybe 10 o'clock by the time we'd properly started our matches. And then the turnovers of the games were just taking way too long. Trying to kind of get the teams in. Come on, let's go. You're refereeing now. You're playing now. I think, it's my fault for not planning ahead and envisioning how the day would run on day 2 fully enough with the resources that we had. So yeah, there's a lot of things to learn from that, and the feedback's been really, really helpful as well. So there's things we can look to if there is a year 2.
Yeah. So if we go to this teams, obviously it was a tournament. We've talked about how you organised it, but what actually happened? So yeah, 20 teams. You had your groups. If you'd had to pick the way you thought the results would go on Thursday night, what would you have thought compared to how it finished?
It went fairly the way I thought it would for the most part. There are a couple of teams that did surprise me a little bit. I expected the Chargers to do a little bit better from Marseille. They had a really good looking squad, especially when they turned up in the morning. I thought, these guys are here to play. They're here to contend. Although they just fell short, and the results on pitch 4 were just so up and down for a lot of teams. It was really hard to predict that. I think the bracket that Cheltenham Neptunes was in was a real tricky one because we had Flagging Ball Z, who were absolutely stacked. Cheltenham Neptunes, who were putting out a fairly decent squad, if a little bit injured.
There was one question I was going to ask you about that before the tournament, but I totally forgot, and obviously you were slammed when the post went out with the team. It was still a 5-a-side tournament, right?
Yeah.
With,
I mean,
with 30,
hometown
with 30,
heroes. So
with 30 names on the bracket on the list for.
I think it was 18. 18. But yeah, it's just so everybody can be there and be part of the squad. Not everybody was playing loads of reps, but try and keep it fresh, especially in that heat. You're going to be thankful for a little bit of a rest every now and again. But no, everyone was there just to kind of, I think, moral support, get behind the team, get some reps if you're lucky enough, and just be part of the festival and the vibes. It was big on vibes.
Means you've always got a bar runner as well, right?
Camp. Say it again.
Means you've always got a bar runner as well, right?
Exactly. Although we had some guy.
If it's a 10-minute walk to the bar, we can send someone at halftime, so by the time they're back, the round's in.
No, we had some guys on the sideline who weren't there to play. They were in, they're kitted up. They're there to have a good time, and they're having a few beers. And actually, we were joking about it in the team chat that their coaching was getting better as they got drunker throughout the day.
Yeah, well, I think at the last Quake that I organised, I was I was on Friends of the Show, but I actually don't think I played on the second day. I was exactly the same. There for vibes. I go run on for a snap every now and then, but. The team, we've set the team up so they can just go do their thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then obviously we had Calicuckoo in the same group as well. So it was really hard to kind of predict which 2 were going to go through in that group. Likewise, again with pitch 3, I think it was with Pit Vipers, Jokers. Then we had obviously who was the other team? I can't remember now. There were a couple of teams sort of thrown in the mix there. That was a bit of the boys. So they were the unlucky ones who didn't make it through to day 2. And then you had pitch 2 with only flags. We had we had 3 Cardiff teams randomly drawn into the same group, which was just utter madness. But yeah, I think. So for the most part, I kind of expected the teams that did go through to not to go through. The couple that I think that I was surprised that didn't were the boys and the Chargers.
Yeah. It was hard. It was hard to tell from home as well, because some of the teams were great, and they, like a lot of teams were posting kind of who the teams were, and that like we knew in advance that like the Jokers and the Pit Vipers, like who they are day to day. The same with kind of Only Flags, like who they are day to day. Most Rexy's Midnight Runners has been the same core for quite some time now, just with other pulling people in. You know who that's going to be. But yeah, no, it was cool to see, and it was cool to kind of like follow along on the Tournify. And yeah, I know. Obviously, I had a direct line to you as well, so it was I could get the gossip over the weekend.
Yeah,
but no, it was cool. So Saturday, the women's bracket begins. Obviously, you've got the Amazons playoff team here in the WFFL. You've got Panthers, South Dublin Panthers, the champions of Ireland recently, the Trojans as well, excellent. Flag and Ball Z, obviously Lewis's Mercs team, great to see them kind of chucking a women's team in for the first time. Under his banner, that's really cool to see. Huskies, brand new, might be seeing them later this year in WFFL. That'd be cool. Starting to see them take part. Oh, Wayfinders. Oh, yes, obviously champions.
The champions.
I was like, I'm going through my head, like, who have I missed? Wayfinders. Cheltenham locals.
Yeah, so that's the women's team that we set up locally. We really wanted to kind of grow and help grow the women's area of the sport, but finding players. Cheltenham's a town, man. Like, we've got 100,000 people here. Our pool is very small. I think we're in a ridiculously odd position with where the team is in the Prem, the mixed side, based on our locale and kind of where we can draw players from. So it's equally, if not harder, to create a women's team where rugby is so prevalent here. And so what we did was we had our ex-players, current players together, and then we brought in. I thought it would be nice because there's probably players who don't have teams who still want to come and compete. So we put the word out saying, if you don't have a team and you want to play, drop us a message and we'll try and find you a team. And we got some players come in for the Wayfinders, and they all sort of had a chat and they decided, cool, we're happy with the group of people we've got. We'll cap it at like 8-9 players.
Yeah.
Then Lewis's Flag and Ball Z team came in at sort of similar time as the London Amazons to firm it up to 6. So they went on and they did the business. They got it done. I was so proud of them. They all worked really hard. They'd never trained, never played. I mean, very few of them ever played together before. And we had Miri come over from the Heidelberg Hunters, I think it is, and Southern Sparkles over in Germany. She's only been playing QB for a little time. She absolutely killed it. Had Sydney come over from Victoria Park Panthers. We got 2 Megans. So we got Meg, who is part of the Neptunes and Flood squad, our development squad. And we had Megan, who plays for Saxon the City.
Yep.
And Jodie, who played for Neptunes a couple of seasons ago. She was an ex-GB, but retired from Flag, and we managed to kind of bring her back in for I would say the last dance, but I think she's got the bug for it again, so she's probably going to be playing a bit more next season.
It's always a danger when you bring someone back in that you then they then are like, oh yeah, I can still do this.
Yeah, exactly.
When I don't hurt, it's great. So.
Yeah. And then another huge player in Cornelia as well, who she played last season for Cowan Cougars, who got was it the 9th national title that they've won now?
Coventry Cougars, yeah.
Coventry, sorry,
Coventry.
Cowan Cougars, Coventry Cougars.
Cowan Cougars were Cowan Cougars were the sister team, so they did have a differentiator, but yes.
Yeah, and then we got Ura as well, who is sort of started with Flag, and she comes over from Malaysia, Korea, and she plays for the London Spark. trains with them. So yeah, I think we had such an amazing core of people on the team. And and Leslie as well. God, how do I forget Leslie? Captain Bicep, who came all the way over from Marseille in France to play, and she was like super keen. She was amazing. Did really, really well, and she's such a great vibe on the sidelines. And then obviously we had Sunshine as well, Sunshine Santos, late edition, who was playing in the mixed bracket with. Who was she playing with in the mixed bracket? I can't remember.
She normally plays with Flag and Ball Z at like Iron Man and stuff, but
Yeah, I'm not sure she played with Flag and Ball. I think she played with the Rejects Club, actually. She played with Flagabonds, which was also another team that I put together for people who wanted to compete but didn't have a team.
themselves in, yeah.
So she came over as well, and I mean, she won MVP on the final along with Sydney. She had some absolute baller moves. I mean, like going toe to toe with probably the tallest, most athletic receiver on the opposite team, and PBUing the hell out of that play. Some high balls, some high points, and even getting a couple of picks. I just thought, if you watch some of the replays as well, she got absolutely ran through and barreled over on a couple of plays that weren't even flagged. And there's one amazing play where she, even though she gets barreled over backwards and does a roly-poly backwards, she kind of sits up holding the flag in her hand, looking totally bemused. And when I saw that happen, I split myself. So I was absolutely in stitches on the sideline. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's always quite funny when that happens, and it's like still got it. There's I think it's probably Greg's favorite photo from our flag career, but there is a similar photo of me like realizing that I can't. It was like our first year of flag, realizing that I can't get out of the way of Archie, and like just it's taken like as I'm on my way down. And he finds it dead funny because they're like, I've just gone like, oh, and like coward, basically coward to like see, because
brace for impact.
But what you can see in my wee hand as I hit the ground is that there is a little flag coming out of my hand. So I have
amazing.
Got it, but, I still didn't win the play.
We'll have to do a side by side of the photos.
There is still there was still no victory there, which is quite funny. But so how did you? Was it top four? Top 4 of 6 went to the
semi-finals and then
bracket,
through to the final. Yeah.
An all-Irish affair on one side, where I'm sure the Panthers and Trojans were delighted to play another game against each other.
I mean, the plus side is that they don't have to play each other in a final, right?
Yeah,
they can play someone different in a grand final, whoever
yeah.
wins. But yeah, so I thought it was quite nice, and it's kind of poetic how the Wayfinders had to play their opening game against Flag and Ball Z again. I thought that was a really great matchup.
Yeah, it looks like that one was good and close at least. And then a one score final. What more do you want? It's good, isn't it?
Purists.
Still playing for
one
it.
for the purists.
If you're still playing for it in the last minute, good final. That's the way.
Oh yeah,
that's the way 100%. I was looking at it.
Everything on the line.
So obviously so that must have been, when did that finish? Like early afternoon, lunchtime.
It was it wasn't early afternoon. It should have finished at 2:00, and we finished at like 4:30.
Yeah. So then you had to start making decisions, right?
Yeah, it's a race against time. So I essentially had to get all of the mixed bracket team managers together, and we had sort of a quick meeting, essentially to say, like, this is where we are. These are the options we've got, and what do you guys want to do, and what are you happy with? It's not an ideal situation for anybody. It's not a conversation I wanted to have. And everybody was so amazing about it. I think they probably took pity on a man that they could see gradually headed into meltdown throughout the day. And I started the day and I thought, oh, this is so much better than day one. I'm not stressed at all. And then we hit about 1:00 and the ball dropped and I was like, oh shit, we're in it now. We're up against it. and I've already got baby brain. I'm just kind of sat there in like freeze mode, not knowing what to do, and just thinking, "Oh God, how do we rectify this?" I've got no idea. So I called help on my amazing head coach and teammate Dan Selwood. Big up Dan. Cammy came in as well and was an enormous help to kind of wrangle referees and do everything. Although by the time we got to the games, half the referees had vanished, and I'm scrambling again trying to get referees to play all the quarterfinals at the same time. So and we had to reduce the clock. We essentially had to kind of say to the plate guys, like, I'm really sorry, but we can't provide referees, but I can now kind of I checked in some prizes that weren't there previously. So we had obviously a Baywatch Rexy's final for that, which Rexy's walked away with. They had some lovely Flagapalooza flags for all the players, the winning players.
Nice.
It was. I don't want to go as far as train wreck because I feel like we saved it, but it wasn't what we wanted to be giving the teams on the day.
I'll be honest. If you've not presided over a tournament that's gone to shit at some point, then have you really presided over a tournament? Like, from one man to another man.
Yeah.
If it's not been a crisis at some point, then you've just not had the full tournament organizing experience.
Trial by fire.
Like
and,
you talked, like there was the year of I'm going to chat to Youngie pretty soon, and there's the year of Flag and New Year where it just snowed and no one could get to you couldn't get to the venue. Obviously, last year at the Quake we had it rained, no one could get to the venue because the roads were gone. Running out of time, everyone, and you have to change the format on the fly. That's
tournament football.
That's what a certain type of people live for. That's what we live for. That's what we want. We embrace the chaos. We're the agents of darkness, and we embrace the chaos. Although from the outside, it does often look like we're about to cry.
If getting through it was extremely emotional on that point. I think I kind of had to take stock at the end of the day, and I had a lot of people coming up and just expressing their gratitude. It was really, really hard for me to hold it together throughout the latter part of the day. But some people made it a lot easier for me. And they know who they are. Like, God, yeah. I mean, immensely grateful to everybody who kind of followed through to the end. The only thing I think, like, there are a few changes, especially from the feedback forms that I've got. There are changes that we will be making for next year to not only make things run smoother, but just make sure more teams are happy. I think we neglected the teams that didn't get through on day two, and where we did say, only the first two teams go through, and we put that out in all of the kind of the publishing, as it were.
Yeah.
When we talked about launching the format, I don't think it was clear enough for some teams, and they felt a little bit shorthanded. And I think I was probably complacent in my thinking that, they've got the rest of the festival to enjoy.
Mm.
They've got loads of rugby they can watch, lacrosse, hockey, netball, rounders, live music, like fitness competitions, street food, bars, like go and enjoy yourselves and have a good time. But that's not for everybody, right? So some people are there and they really just want to play flag. I did really try last minute to kind of say, look, if you didn't get through to the next day, message Arrow, because they were setting up friendlies on one of the pitches that we weren't using. And you're going to have to self-ref, but you get to play more flag football against teams that you haven't played against, perhaps.
Yeah.
And we just didn't have enough time. I wish we'd thought of that sooner and kind of thought, hang on, I've got a pitch free for most of the day in pitch 4, and we can actually have teams who don't make it through playing games against each other. Yeah.
It's learning.
Yeah, I've got to own it, right?
It's a learning. It's learning, isn't it? Like, okay, next time we work it out. So obviously the big game in the quarterfinal round Reading and Kalikaku.
Mm.
25-28. Thriller.
And if I remember rightly, Reading won it with a walk-off touch.
Things you love.
Yeah.
So
That's,
you were.
I mean, that's that for traveling to the UK from France. That's never an easy way to go out of a tournament, right? Like a walk-off touchdown. But I mean, if you're going to do it in style, right?
Yeah, why not? If you can, if you don't have to score one more time, then just score one more time.
Yeah.
So you were. Was it 12-minute?
12-minute rolling clock.
Yeah, you went to 12-minute rolling clocks for the rest.
Originally, it was going to be 15 minutes, and then it was going to be 20 minutes with 2 timeouts for the semi, and then a full buffer game for the final. What we did was we changed it, so we did 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 20 minutes with 2 timeouts max, like no 2-minute warning for the final. And we finished on time, remarkably, in the end. And by playing all the quarterfinals at the same time, we managed to claw back an hour and a half.
Basically save an hour and a half, right? So
yeah, but that was running around headless, trying to get because we have four referees, four referees kicking around, head referees. So we put one on each pitch, and then we had to find support crews. And Cammy ran around and got me. He said, "Right, I've got this team. Got your 16 referees, support crew. They know what they're doing." We finished the women's final. I get on the old megaphone. Can all the support refs for the men's quarterfinals please come to the tent? Nobody comes.
Silence.
And I'm like, okay. We need to get the show on the road, right? So I'm running from pitch to pitch to pitch, and all the people on the sideline here, there, and in between. Like, can you take scores? Can you do blitz line?
Be a sideliner.
Please head to this
something.
pitch. Please head to that pitch. Please go and speak to this referee. Like, we need people. My wayfinders were brilliant. They split up and they went and did 2 pitches. And then we had, obviously I can't ask any of my Neptunes. They're playing in the quarterfinals against Only Flags. I can't have any of my wayfinders referee that game either. I can't have Annie, my head referee who plays for the Neptunes, referee that game, so he can't referee that pitch. So there was all this stuff kind of going on, and I'm up against the cosh, and I think I needed 2 referees, and I'm just stood there in the middle of 2 pitches,
arms
not knowing what to do, and somehow miraculously I managed to rope in a couple of people to do it. Amazing thank you to the players from teams who didn't get through, who were watching, who agreed to do the quarterfinals. That got us through it. It wasn't perfect, but we got through it. So then we had the semi-finals after that, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. So Only Flags in Reading, I think probably could have maybe picked that name, those ones out of the hat on the on Thursday, like we spoke about earlier on. I guess, once you know like which groups were going to play which groups, it became kind of the Devils Kalikaku group quarterfinal. You had a good, felt good about that, one of them getting through their semi if they got over the quarter. So Only Flags, Reading Devils, fighting it out. Tampa on the line, rings on the line, belt on the line, cash money on the line. 20 minutes, 2 timeouts. How was that as the first ever Flagapalooza final?
First, let me correct myself. Neptunes played Rexies in the quarterfinal.
They played Rexies, and then they played Only Flags.
Got through, and then they played Only Flags in the semi.
Yeah.
That final was unbelievable. Only Flags go like 18, 19 points up in the first 10 minutes. Reading just can't get a groove. All of a sudden, Reading are scoring back. They're clawing points back, and they turn it into a 1-score game at halftime. I think it was 18-12, something like that. It was real nail-biting stuff, like tooth and nail. They were really going at it hard. Referees did a great job, I thought. Everything was like so precise in terms of pitch position marking. The calls ran really smooth. And I think the thing that really stood out to me was what great sports both teams were. there was one call where the blitz would come against Reading QB. It looked like he'd smacked his hand. He batted the ball down. It looked like it was during the throw. The Reading QB came out and said it was ruled against the blitz as contact on the QB, and the Reading QB came out and said, actually, he didn't touch me. Yeah. Now, when you've got all that on the line, how often do you see that in sports? Somebody bigger, like, you know, they say, I'm not bigger than the sport and the rules are the rules. And I know that it's a cheap way for me to win, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was incredible.
Yeah. It's like I can't remember which two players it was, but it was the Australian Open a couple of years ago. And like the ball's called out, the tennis ball's called out. And the guy looks over the net and the net's like, you should challenge that. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, you should challenge that. It was in.
I remember seeing that.
The guy's like looks at the referee and is like, yeah, okay. And it was in. And then it was just like, got you. It's so good. It's so good. But it's you know, like, you know, now whether or not that happens on match point, you never know. But, you know, in the middle of the second set, we'll let it go. But yeah, it's good to see it. It's good to hear that kind of story. So yeah, obviously only Flags go on to win. For a group of those guys, it'll be another trip back to Tampa. Many of them will have, some of them anyway, have been out there before to compete. So yeah, what was the Saturday night vibe like once it's over? Because did you stay on site the Saturday night, or is it clear out? Like
everyone stayed on site. I was not staying.
Yeah, you were done.
I was wiped. Yeah. I was absolutely wiped. So I was bringing out. I lost my car keys in the field for like half an hour, just trying to load my car. Like at the end, I was so done. I was so done. I was like, I never want to see a megaphone again in my life. But everybody went back to. Loads of teams went back. They were partying. Just like community vibes, right? Like we want to make the biggest vibey flag community tournament in Europe where people can like mix and have fun and drink and chat and party.
Watch ABBA.
Yeah, man. All about the vibes. Like love, peace and love, man.
Peace and love, man.
But yeah, no, I think it was Artful Dodger. So they had like a UK garage royalty set going on.
God.
All the bar. I mean, we had like iced limoncellos. We had like slushy alcoholic drinks and cocktails.
We'll take it.
There was a shot bar. There was obviously beer. There was all sorts going on. I mean, it was great. And the food. I mean, people were absolutely murdering the Greek heroes on the weekends. It was it was. I've got so many videos that I've seen of just people partying in the crowd afterwards, and it fills me with joy because that's exactly what we wanted to achieve.
Yeah. So looking at it, obviously it's still pretty fresh. You know, we're recording this on Thursday night. You got home with your car keys at some point on Saturday night. We're not that far away. It'll definitely take you some time to like digest, but overall, even with some, changes, mission accomplished, I guess, from your perspective, as far as attempt one goes.
Yeah, I felt a tremendous amount of relief, but also I doubted myself whether I could pull it off, honestly. Yeah. So I felt a little bit vindicated in myself, which was nice.
It's always nice.
We did do it. It wasn't perfect, but I think we've got a really solid foundation for building on. Next year is there 2025? We don't know yet. Do I want there to be? Absolutely. It's going to be a case of, do Cheltenham Sevens want us back? And if they do, can I provide the improvements that I want for all of the teams?
Yeah. So that was going to be my follow-up question. I know that some of it will be, it's between you and them, but was there a mechanism for chatting to the organisers of the Sevens like throughout the weekend? Like, did anyone pop down to see what was happening, or?
Yeah, a
Because
number
obviously
of
you know
them
them, right?
swung
Because
by.
you train at the same place, so I'm guessing that you know some of them to chat to anyway. But
Yeah, a lot of them I hadn't met before I got involved with Cheltenham Sevens, but they're a really solid group of guys. You've got essentially Fred, Jack, and Leroy, who are the three main guys running things. You've got John in support as well, doing like all of the web stuff and like marketing and socials and things for them and design. And he's also there on the day handling logistics. And then they've got a massive crew of volunteers who are putting all the sevens together and things. But they all came down, expressed, I think, like their excitement and how much the festival was buzzing as a result of having Flagapalooza there. So do I think the chances of us being back next year are good? I would say, yeah. Is it 100% yet? Not yet. But TBC. But when I know, you guys will know too.
We'll know. Yeah. That's cool. So I guess everyone can keep their eye out. Certainly, the kind of, I'll be seeing a lot of the guys this weekend, and I've not spoken to them properly, but certainly a lot of the good vibes have certainly seemed to have reflected back out of it. So I'm sure that it's always hard. The first one's always hard. Like of whatever you do, like in tournaments, I always think are like that. Like if you can get through then you find out that like year two is the it's the benefit of experience. Like, when I was working in the climbing wall years ago, I had this idea for a tournament and we ran it, and it was kind of a funky format. And it was like on the night, everyone was like, "Oh, what do you do here? I don't understand. How do you score?" But then, okay, fine. And then the following winter, I couldn't. There was a 4-leg tournament, like it was one Friday night for 4 months in a row, and I couldn't think of a format because I tried to do a different one every night. So I was just like, right, just let people vote. Which one do they want? And they actually picked the format from the summer because they were being like, it's mad, but it's funny, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought you guys would never come back if I would never have said we're going to do this one because I thought turnout would have been low, and it was the one that got voted for. So sometimes even when you'll introspect on it, you'll introspect on the feedback, and if you're anything like me, you will weight the negative or the criticism. You will someone could write, it was a great weekend, but this wasn't very good, and you'll be like, oh my god, it wasn't very good. That's the way my brain works.
Yeah,
but
I think most of us work that way, right?
But actually, that little thing that is like, oh, this could be improved, is not in 90% of cases will not stop people coming back. They're just like, if that was better, it would be awesome. So as you go through that process, my kind of advice would be just like bear that in mind, because round 2 is always easier because you've got your own opinions. You've obviously got your feedback form out that people can let you know, and you'll probably get something from the Sevens guys. They'll probably be like, we could tweak this, move that, try this. What if we put you next to this? What if this happened? What if we threw people like from over here? So hopefully they're keen, man, because it looked like a great weekend, and I was genuinely gutted. Like when I messaged you last week, I was like, can't come.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my swear for the week. But I was just like, I'm gonna have to message him. But yeah, I mean, it was a thriller, and it's it's a good time of year, basically. Like,
I think it's perfect, right, in terms of scheduling, provided we don't land on like BAFA Prem weekends. But I would hope that we can work with BAFA each year now to make sure that never happens in the future. And
obviously they're always subject to change, but I think the next 5 years of BAFA game days are in the shared calendar. So there's a top tip for you. If you haven't got access to the shared calendar, flag football
regardless,
friends,
I'm tied to Cheltenham Sevens Festival.
You can,
so
exactly.
Whatever dates they decide is what it has to be if we're doing it. But I mean, so I submitted a feedback link yesterday, and we got 23 responses on that. And
that's good.
yeah, all really helpful stuff. It's like you said, I know it's easy to kind of look at it and get really downhearted and upset, but
So
I don't
smash some
ever want
beers.
to be. Well, yeah, right. Like I don't ever want to be the festival though who doesn't want to listen to what people have to say and think, "Oh, I know best," because I don't. I haven't done. I've never been to a tournament. I've never hosted a tournament before. So any feedback that I get is so valuable to me, and I try not to take it personally. It is hard, but because I know I've done the best that I could the first time round. But now I know that we can do better for next year, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's like there's whenever something like that happens where you feel like you're running out of time or you have to change the format, there'll, like you already know how you could have avoided it, but there's nothing you can do now. But if you did it again, you'd be like, oh, it just wouldn't happen, so I don't have to worry about it. But because it's happening to me right now, I have to suck it up. But so yeah, is the feedback link still open if people were there and they want to go
still
find
open? I will. I'm going to repost it anyway,
Cool.
just in case people missed it, so they'll have another 24 hours to submit any more feedback. But I think part in part, they're all pretty much saying the same thing. It's stuff that I was mostly expecting to hear. It kind of confirmed my own criticisms and doubts with regards to how things went. So I think that's positive. It means we're in the right track.
Yeah, right. If it was wildly different to what you thought was happening, then you'd be like, "Oh, damn, okay."
Yeah. I was taking mental notes throughout the weekend. I mean, one of the things is I had a couple of teams saying, "Oh, are there no crates of water for teams?" It's something I never even thought of because I wasn't anticipating a 30-degree heat wave.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Also, I've got quite a tight budget I'm working with, but if I can try and plan for it, then that's something I can try and do next year, is make sure that every team who comes has a crate of 24 bottles of water or something like that. It's all logistics and infrastructure and making sure that I work with Cheltenham Sevens so that we can rectify the things for next time. One thing I did want this year was that I did try and fight for us to stay in the same place for the whole tournament, but I don't think, like I said before, I don't think Cheltenham Sevens realised how big the flag football was going to be. So fingers crossed, if they ask us back, I can speak to them about making sure that we're in one location, so people don't have to trek to different places on each day.
Yeah. It's cool. And it's really cool to have a hub, without having to even just for you to have to pick up and move. But it also means if you're just wandering the festival, say I'm wandering the festival between games and I come across lacrosse and I'm like, oh, lacrosse was pretty cool. We I then run back, play a flag football game. Right, guys, I watched the lacrosse earlier on and it was nuts. Tomorrow, before our game, we should go see lacrosse. If I go back to the lacrosse pitch and lacrosse is no longer there, gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's cool to have just for that, to have the one place, especially when you've got the weight of numbers of non-participants that are essentially locked in a field with you. So,
exactly.
So did you find a lot of not passing trade, that's the wrong word, but kind of curious
bystanders,
yeah.
we had quite a few, even early morning on the women's bracket, a couple of spectators going past saying, what sport is this? And a number of the organizers and photographers for the festival and things like that were coming by and kind of really interested in what was going on. So I think, people who haven't seen flag before and they play, they're seeing something that's quite fast paced, something that's quite exciting, something that looks extremely competitive, and the teams are quite vocal on the sidelines. It's got a real energy to it. And I think for people who've never seen flag before, that's actually quite...
Yeah, for sure. No, that's cool. That's good. And, it's another event in the calendar that that raises the profile. I don't know what it is about, it's either Flag and New Year or Iron Man, but there is always a massive either like boxing meet or gymnastics meet in the same building at the same time. Because obviously you've never been to Ravenscraig, but it's the indoor pitch, and then there's like the middle corridor goes right down the middle, and on the other side of that there's like an indoor athletics track, indoor gymnastics arena, and for boxing they'll build the ring. So there's just folk like just wandering in, and like obviously the cafe is glass and looks down, so people are just like wandering around being like you say, like what am I looking at? I like it.
This?
I don't know what's going on, but I think I like it. So yeah, it's just another kind of spoke in the wheel of exposing people to flag and getting them 100%. Interested. So
next year, I just hope we don't have the RAF tattoo at Fairford the same weekend, the same dates, because I think we had like an extra. They had the highest attendance of any air show.
Oh my God,
ever. They had over like 150,000 people.
To be fair, people do
so
love
you've
planes.
got people filling up all the hotels in Cheltenham and then ramping up all the prices so that bunches of teams had to either camp or overpay for hotels. And I don't want to see that again. So if we do Flagapalooza 2025, make sure you sign up your hotel soon and quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to struggle. But yeah, God, what a nightmare.
Yeah, I think it was the same. There was it this year? There was a game day. One of the teams was talking about there was a game day like not far from Taylor Swift.
It was the British Grand Prix, wasn't it? It was Reading hosting and
Reading,
or something.
Reading and Silverstone. And I think there was a discussion about early on. Maybe she hadn't fully announced or whatever it was, but there was concern that like one of the Edinburgh dates, one of the cross conference dates, might have been a Taylor Swift concert, but it wasn't. Thankfully, in the end, it wasn't. But yeah, it was. That would have been a disaster. So
these things, I mean, if it's not a challenge, right, you're not doing it right. Apparently.
Exactly.
So
and you can't plan for like the most famous singer in the world to like put a gig up, or for the RAF to decide today is the day we want to show off our planes. Like if they're going to do that, then that's what they're going to do.
Hang on, who do I email? I need to try and get them to rearrange this.
At the first Air Lord or whatever they're called, I don't know. First, commander probably. I don't know. But yeah, no, Ben, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much. We will keep our eyes very much peeled for any announcement of Flagapalooza 2025 at the Cheltenham Sevens Festival. Well, yeah, it's been great to chat, and it's been great to chat kind of through the whole process. I'm glad we could finally make it happen.
Well, thank you for having me, and also thank you to everybody who came to make the tournament what it was. Everybody who came had such a great attitude, battled through it with us. Immensely proud of everybody who came and all the teams who travelled, and I hope that people want to come back for.
Yeah, cool, and join us again very soon, guys. Where hopefully we will be chatting either what you have to do this weekend in order to get yourself to finals or promoted or not relegated, or I don't know, any other forfeiting, whatever chaos is happening in the National League this week. We're hopefully going to talk about it. If not, we'll see you next week for the mop-up show with what the hell just happened to us all. I'm looking forward to it. I know Tree's looking forward to it. Ben has a big grin on his face. I know that he's looking forward to it. His team just need one result, but it's not a loss, and they're in to the Premiership playoffs. So that's it. We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. That is the way we HN see it.